If Nintendo are to be believed, we are due a brand new entry in the Legend of Zelda series on Wii U in 2015. But wait, it's 2015 right now and we barely know anything about the game save for some extremely brief glimpses via trailers and teasers. If you sit down and think about it, that is barely any knowledge at all. But that doesn't mean we can't speculate on what we can expect from a new Link adventure, as well as relay a few of our hopes and wishes along the way. So, what do we actually know about The Legend of Zelda Wii U? For a start, we know that the game is going to feature a bright, vibrant art style very similar to Skyward Sword. As we've seen so far from trailers as well as games like Mario Kart 8, Nintendo is adept at using beautiful lighting effects and other graphical tricks to really bring their characters and environments to life. Lush greenery has been a big part of what we've seen so far, but it wouldn't be a Zelda game without other environmental types like high altitude mountains and perilous deserts. We also know that these environments will form part of a seamless open world experience, something new in a sense to the series, rather than distinct areas of a large world being divided up into sections. This will be a more integrated and natural. It is entirely possible to see far in the distance and place a beacon which appears both on the Gamepad's map and in normal gameplay, and it's been hinted that this world is far too large for Link to traverse by foot, so players will have to get used to riding on horseback, hailing the return of fan favourite Epona. At this very early stage, it looks like the typical Zelda user interface we're used to has been given a massive overhaul. Obviously we don't know if this is the display the final game will use, but so far it looks like a traditional heart display is in the top left hand side of the screen with a thin green bar underneath, likely for magic usage. And that's it. No minimap, no rupee count, and not even symbols to show your equipped items, at least not until you actually select one of those items. It's difficult to see, but it also looks like the D-pad allows you to quickly bring these items up, at least in the case of equipping arrows while on horseback. While Link is riding Epona, a small box appears in the bottom right corner, likely revealing the horseback controls themselves. For now, the on-screen display is the most minimalistic we've seen from a home console Zelda game. In terms of items, we've seen two pieces of equipment being used. Returning from Skyward Sword is the sailcloth, no doubt useful for reaching lower ground from gigantic heights, but the biggest focus has been on the bow. In both trailers released so far, the bow has been an important tool. For a start, it is now easier to use the bow on horseback, especially as you can move the Wii U gamepad to make adjustments to your aim, and it's also possible to vault from Epona and let off a few arrows while in midair before hitting the ground and carrying on your attack. But what we find especially interesting is something in the very first trailer. Link is clearly using different types of arrow, starting with an explosive laced shot and finishing it off with an arrow charged with energy. Are these arrow types found, bought, or even crafted? Then there's the target of those attacks, a gigantic creature that actively and relentlessly chases our hero. Is that a boss or a deadly standard enemy? We have no idea, but it looks very similar to P-Hat, only far tougher. Definitely far more fearsome than the bokoblins we see in the second reveal video. Gamepad support is a definite addition we'll be keeping a close eye on. Using the gamepad screen as a map is an obvious but welcome use for the controller, but what haven't Nintendo shown us? We know we'll be able to use the gamepad to zoom in and out of the map, but there is a third button. What does it do? Could it change the view of the map from a top-down overview to a Google Earth style 3D view? There's a question mark which is some sort of help or manual, as well as an icon in the bottom right which is most likely to change to a status or equipment screen. Plus, there's a clock in the top middle of the gamepad screen. Is that clock showing actual time that perhaps influences the game, or is it simply just an in-game timer? We've had a small glimpse of Zelda Wii U so far, but there's already enough to be excited about. But even with so much we don't know about, there are always questions to be asked. For example, it would be highly unlikely that there isn't some sort of Amiibo support in this latest adventure. While Nintendo have been consistent in providing support for the Amiibo platform, it is mostly being relegated to being used for unlocking cosmetic functions within games. Could there be something more substantial when characters from the Land of Hyrule are used? There are already figurines available of Link, Zelda, Toon Link and Sheik, but we could easily see a new series of Amiibo released just in time for this new game, much like how Mario Party 10 will see the release of a new Super Mario series of Amiibo. The original Legend of Zelda was wholly based on exploring an unknown location with very little in the way of hand-holding, which is a far cry from more recent entries in the series. For instance, Skyward Sword was filled with an almost obstructive amount of hand-holding. We'd really like to see, at the very least, an option for veteran Zelda fans to be able to explore this vast new open world at their own pace and discover things for themselves, with another option for less experienced players to obtain help when needed. As the game is set in a far larger world than previous entries in the series, traversing it on foot might not always be the best idea. Epona is back to provide a quicker mode of transport, but we can't see there not being some way of fast travelling to previously reached areas. An ocarina has usually been used for this exact purpose on multiple previous occasions, so would it be presumptuous to us to assume this legendary musical instrument will make another appearance? What about other equipment? Different tunics, swords and shields are a mainstay of The Legend of Zelda, but we'd really like to see a return of Skyward Sword's crafting system. With a massive world to explore, there's a chance to hide some very rare materials to craft some very powerful items. The final thing to note is of course the story. Thanks to Hyrule Historia, there's now a canonised timeline, so we imagine that Nintendo would want to continue with the timeline in some way. With the graphical style and setting so similar to Skyward Sword, alongside the return of the sailcloth, could this game take place after Skyward Sword? We are, of course, quite away from knowing all there is to know about Link's next original adventure, and we'd love to hear what you think this new title would bring, and what you'd like to see. Thanks for watching this video. As always, you can support us by subscribing to our channel and sharing our videos. And you can also check out www.nintendolife.com for the very best in Nintendo related content.